It's nice and clean and lubed now. Are you Opal? Yeah. You and I used to ride back in the day.
Louis.
Yeah.
Louis.
With ebony and brass, yeah.
Oh my God, yes. Oh my God.
Still strong.
Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about ways that you can move up safely on your group ride. We're going to talk about reasons why you'd want to move up, things to consider before you start moving up, and then we're going to talk about ways that you can move up. And we're also going to talk about ways to not move up. Okay, so let's say you're in a group ride, and let's say it's a fairly large group ride, 25 to 30 plus. It's structured, double pace line and pace. And for whatever reason, you're sitting there thinking, I gotta move up. It could be that the ride is a little bit surgy. Maybe you wanna get away from dangerous, unpredictable, or distracted cyclists, or you've got this accordion effect thing happening that you just wanna get away from that. And I actually did a video about that. I'll post a link to that so that you can watch that one right after you've watched this one. But things that you've gotta consider before you even start thinking about moving up is, number one, you gotta make sure that it is okay to move up, because some rides have a gatekeeper or gatekeepers, and they don't want people moving up beyond, let's say, the first 4, 5, or 6 rows of a group. So make sure that it is okay for you to move up. Next, you've got to make sure that you are a good wheel to follow, meaning that you're not going to move up and then start adding to the problems of surginess, either coming off of lights or going around corners where you're not able to hold the wheel, and you start bringing to the front the problem that you're experiencing on the back. Make sure that you're on point with your skills. Next, don't be a jerk, either in giving up a position or in receiving a position. Keep this in mind, guys. It's a ride. It's not a race. All right, let's begin by talking about ways to move up by saying this. Make sure that you're a good wheel. Make sure that if you insert yourself into the front of a group, that nobody's going to be freaked out, or you're not going to be adding to the misery of anybody's ride, because you're very good at managing your cornering, being able to come off of lights properly, that you're not creating an issue for all of the cyclists before, like I just mentioned. So that's number one. Make sure that you're a good wheel to follow. Number two, start at the front, frontish or close to the front. One of the issues with being in the front is that people avoid it because they think they've got to do work. But being on the front, even though you're not getting all of the aerodynamic shielding from being in the back of the group, you avoid a lot of the issues with the surginess, the unpredictability, people being distracted. So start at the front or close to it. Let's call it frontish. Number three, ask a friend or buddy. I have been on rides where I'm like, I don't like what's going on directly in front of me, and I see a friend in one of the 2 pace lines. What I'll do is I'll go around everybody safely, and I'll ask my friend, hey, do you mind if I get in front of you? And typically my friends would be like, no, by all means, Lou, go ahead.
Hey, Jay, can I get in?
Now, that's contingent upon me being a decent cyclist and me not being a jerk. Next, you got to learn how to keep what you got, meaning that when you take off from lights or you go around corners, you can't lose 5, 10 bike lengths and then be sprinting to close it down, because you're creating a problem for everybody behind you. So become more proficient at clipping in at lights. I know sometimes, you miss one. It happens, but it shouldn't be an all the time thing. And also make sure that you know how to corner and stay on the wheel, accelerating properly and safely, so that you're not having to do a massive surge, which again is affecting people behind you. A point to make about keeping what you got. Those spots that you lose when you clip in slowly all the time, and when you go around corners and you leave 5, 10 bike lengths and a couple people go around you, that's okay. You're not entitled to that spot. Sometimes, people have that deal where they corner slow, somebody goes around them, and then they want the spot back. You're not entitled to that. And, it happens to me where I clip in a little bit slow, a couple people go past me, I let that one go. That was on me. So that's just all part of the game. Learn how to keep what you got. Next, safely learn how to accelerate around people who are cornering really slowly. You can't coach a person into better cornering on a group ride. Sometimes people are tentative, they're not comfortable, they're new on the bike and they just happen to be in front of you. If they're leaving gaps in cornering, go around them. Hopefully what'll happen is that they'll learn and say, that's a skill that I need to work on. But you got to learn how to go around them on the outside of the group safely and smoothly, where you're not hindering their line or create some sort of safety hazard. The same thing with going up inclines. Everybody doesn't climb at the same rate. Sometimes the people on the front try to maintain the effort, which means bringing down the speed, but some people just can't climb at that rate. So when that happens, again, safely find yourself around them. And remember, guys, you're not entitled to that spot if you lost it because you cornered slow or you climbed slow. All right, let's talk about things to not do. And I've kind of mentioned this one a little bit. Don't bully somebody off of a wheel. That's just poor cycling etiquette, and it just looks bad. If I'm going around a corner faster than somebody and then I'm slotting into a spot, I only do it if there's like a lot of room there. On a recent ride, we had a situation where, we went around a curve and then we normally slot into like single file on this road. And that's what I was anticipating doing. And I hadn't been at the ride for maybe a couple weeks. And apparently they changed it where they were going to go down this road double pace line. But I did what the group normally does, which is I went around and I, kind of slotted into a spot. And that seemed to have annoyed somebody a little bit. But just be mindful. Don't be a bully. Don't be a jerk. And don't force gaps that aren't there. And the other thing, and this is probably the biggest thing that I see on group rides, is the light swarm. It's like you are way in the back, the light turns red, and you get 57 people come out of nowhere, and now they're vying for positions to get in front of you. Listen, the best way to avoid that situation is to do the things that I mentioned at the beginning and be mindful of your positioning and the way how people are riding. And, be courteous. Ask people if it's okay to get in front. I know that people move up to do the light swarm thing because they just know they're going to get a weak link, somebody who just can't clip in fast enough, and they're going to be able to get that spot. And I guess that's kind of okay. But just understand that that's creating more of a washing machine effect with the ride than anything else. So, yeah. So those are things to not do. And let's wrap this all up by talking about riding or moving up in a Peloton. Now, I'll be the first one to raise my hand and say that sometimes on group rides, I can do something that may appear to be a little bit naughty. Never dangerous, but certainly it may appear to be a little bit naughty. And I may end up doing something like this. And other times I may end up doing something like this. Now, at first blush, you may be thinking that I'm either putting myself or other cyclists in danger, and I'm not really. I'm very cautious and very methodical about doing things like those two maneuvers. But when I'm in a huge group ride, a massive group ride, and the pace and the intensity starts to pick up, my brain automatically switches to one in a ride in a Peloton. Those two previous slides, that was done more out of boredom than anything else. But the reason why my brain switches into one in a ride in a Peloton is simply because I know that it's the most efficient way to get a large body of cyclists down the road safely and efficiently. This past 4th of July, there was a Independence Day ride where between 150 and 200 cyclists showed up. The ride was going to be paced between 22 and 24 miles an hour. It was supposed to be a double pace, and I'm sitting there thinking that's not possible. Within the first quarter of a mile, the ride had already evolved into a Peloton. There were some people who were okay with it and others who were not. Now, 3 things required to ride efficiently in a Peloton. That's respect, caution, and decisiveness. The whole idea of moving up in a Peloton is very different than moving up in a double pace line, because you kind of like have to hold your station in a double pace line, stay single file, and don't rock the boat too much. In a Peloton, basically, if there's an available gap or an available space and it's safe for you to get in there without having an effect on the rider to your left or to your right, you can and should go into that spot, because the whole idea is to keep the group as compact as possible. Now, all the typical rules of road riding and safety apply. Don't overlap wheels if you're within the same frame of a cyclist. Don't bump people. Don't put yourself into a situation where somebody has to adjust their line. If you move up, check to make sure that you've cleared somebody's front wheels. There's no swerving, no sudden jamming of brakes, no overt deliberate moves. And it's peaceful. It's very zen when it's done right. And it's a straight rush. And if you've never experienced it and you want to try it, I highly recommend that you give it a try. All right, boys and girls, that's all we have for today. Thank you for supporting the channel by subscribing, by liking these videos, and also by weighing in, sharing your thoughts, your experience, and your insights in the comment section below. As always, our aim here at the channel is to inform, instruct, inspire. Be blessed.